Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well today. Before we jump into today's video, I want to give you some background info as to why I'm actually doing this video today. So, I go to university and I study literature, which means all day long I read books and then I write essays on the books that I've just read and so on and so forth. I love reading and writing so much. It's something that's very important to me, and I think it is something that should be shared and enjoyed by as many people as possible. So that's why today we are going to be doing a creative writing video. I want to share my passions with you guys and help you guys enjoy writing and reading as much as I love it. Okay? So, what you will need is a pen, something to write with, or you can use a pencil, whatever, just something to do that with. Something to write on. I have a notebook. You can have plain paper, lined paper, anything you want, okay? Um, so yeah, we're going to be talking about how to write a story, what's needed for a good story, characters, settings, and all that jazz. If this video is going a bit fast at any point, I know a lot of people have told me I talk really fast, so feel free to pause this video and just do it at your own pace, okay? Really take your time with this, and by the end of it, you should come out with something great. So, creative writing, let's go. Okay, so there's a few things that we need in order to write a story, but the thing that I like to begin with is writing the character, okay? So we are going to be writing our main character now. The main character of a story is called a protagonist. It's who the character follows. Sometimes it's from the protagonist's point of view, okay? So we are going to build a character. First of all, I want you to think, you can write this down as well just to help you remember, what your character's gender is going to be. So first of all, can you please write down if your main character is going to be a boy or a girl? Next, I'd like you to think about their age, whether they're a young kid, they're a teenager, or maybe even an adult. The good thing about writing is that you can try new ways of thinking, maybe that you've never explored before, so you can really push the boat out and maybe write from an adult's point of view or a teenager's, or maybe even like a very young child, smaller than you are, just to, mix it up a bit, try new things. So once you've decided the gender and the age, I want you to think about the character's personality. So a personality is a person's characteristics and qualities that makes them them, okay? Remember what I said as well. If this is going a bit too fast, you can pause it at any time to think about what I've just said and think about new things. So I'd like you to think of 3 distinct things that make up that's some of your character's qualities, okay? So you can think about, are they happy or are they moody? Are they a loud character or are they a quiet character? Are they outgoing or are they shy? Okay, could be any of those things like that. You can think of other things like how clever they are, maybe, how friendly they are with people. So if you could focus on 3 things to add to your character's personality. Next, let's think about the appearance of your character, okay? So let's think about whether they're tall or short, what colour hair they have, what colour skin they have. Do they have curly hair? Do they have straight hair? Do they wear glasses maybe? Or do they have braces? Okay, so it might be helpful if you pause the video at this point and close your eyes and really try and imagine what your character looks like. I know when I'm writing, I tend to base my characters off what I look like or what my friends look like, but sometimes it's exciting to try something new, so you could create a character that's like no one you've ever seen before, okay? So focus on your character's appearance and 3 main things that stick out there. Okay, and once you've done that, I'd like you to think about a hobby that your character has. Do they play football? Do they do ballet? Do they like to sing? Do they like to write? Or do they like gaming? Again, sometimes it's easier if you think about what you like and what your friends like and to pick something from there, okay? So if you can think of a hobby. And those are the things that we're just going to focus on for now, okay? So by now you should have a character, you've decided if it's a boy or girl, how old they are, and what their personality is like, what they look like, and what they're into. What do they like to do? Okay, great. Now we have your character, we need to think about the setting. The setting is really important in a story as it explains where your character is and why they're there. So I'm going to give you some examples of places that your character could be. You could pick any of these examples, or you could make up your own. Is your character on a beach, in a city, on a field, in space, in a castle? Any of these things. It could be somewhere that you know or somewhere that is totally made up. Okay, it depends if you want your story to be realistic or like a fantasy story. Okay, so think about where your character is, and you need to think about why are they there. Are they on vacation or do they live there? Have they wound up there by mistake? I'd also like you to think about how they feel to be there. Are they happy being there? Are they nervous? What are they doing there? Are they just acting normally? Are they confused that they're there? Are they trying to figure something out? Now might be a good time to pause the video so you can think about the things I just asked, okay? So, by the end of this, you should have a character and you should know where they are, why they're there, and how they feel to be there. So, now that you have your character and your setting, I'm going to talk you through some scenarios, okay? And then you can watch until the end and pick a scenario that you like, and you can go with it for your story. So, the first scenario is through the doorway, okay? So you have your character, you have the setting where they are, and they stumble across a doorway, okay? So you need to think about what could be through the doorway. What type of door is it? Perhaps your character will find something on the other side of the door. Or maybe it's locked. What will your character do then? Okay, so that is your first scenario, through the doorway. The next scenario is a message in a bottle. Now, this one is usually associated with a beach, but obviously because it's your story, you can find the message in the bottle anywhere you want. Okay, so you have your character, you have your setting, and then they stumble across a message in a bottle. Or maybe they want to write a message in a bottle and they do that for someone else. Okay, so have a think about that, what the message might say, who the message might go to, and then you can build another character based on what I was saying earlier. You can rewind the video and you can talk how this character receives the bottle and what they do then. Okay, so that is your second prompt, message in a bottle. The third scenario I'd like you to think about is your character stumbling across an old camera. So this camera could have no pictures on, or it could have lots and lots of pictures on from the olden days. The pictures could lead to a puzzle that your character has to solve. The camera might have belonged to a time traveller. Your character might be a time traveller. So really have a think of this scenario. You can choose anything you want to do with this. Your character might pick up the camera and start using it themselves. You never know. So just have a think. This is your third scenario, is an old camera. And the fourth scenario I'd like you to think about is your character stumbling across an animal. This could be absolutely any animal you want. It might even be a made up animal. You could think about the animal might be able to talk, the animal might need help, or maybe your character needs help and the animal can guide you. The animal could become your character's sidekick. They could work on secret adventures and missions together. So have a think of how you might be able to incorporate an animal into your story. And there you go, your fourth scenario is any animal. Now it might be a good time to maybe pause this video and check you have everything you need so far. So, you should have a main character. You should know what they look like, what they act like, what they enjoy doing, and everything else that we talked about. So you should have a main character who is all ready to delve into their story. You should also have picked the setting, where your character is, and why they are there. You can pick any of the ones that I suggested, or pick your own setting, but it's really important to know where your character is and why they're there. Finally, you should have picked your scenario. Again, you can choose any of the ones I suggested, or you can make up your own. This is the fun thing about writing. You can write whatever you want and just go with it. Once you have all of these things written down and then are ready to go, we can start putting our story together. Now we have everything we need, it's time to put our story together. Keep following along as I tell you what needs to go in the beginning, the middle, and the end of your story. Here we go! So, the first thing we're going to do is write the beginning of our story. At the beginning of your story, this is where you first introduce your character. Remember when you're writing about your character to include all of the things that you've thought of before, like what they're like, their personality, what they look like. So make sure you do a really detailed description of your character, as it's the first time that the reader will be hearing about them. After you've introduced your character, you can introduce the setting, where they are, and why they're there. Okay? After you've wrote these things, this is now the beginning of your story, and we are ready to delve into the middle and then the end. Now we're going to write at the middle of the story. The middle, I find, is always the most exciting and the most important part of a story. This is where you introduce the problem or the task that your character has to go through. So, this is where you'll be mentioning the scenarios that we discussed before. So hopefully you've already picked your scenario and you know what you're going to write. So now you can describe how your character arises in your scenario and how they act and what the problem might be. So if you went with the doorway scenario, the problem could be that they go through the doorway and they're in a new land and now they're lost and they don't know how to get home. Or if your scenario was the animal one, you could come across an animal that needs your help. And now your problem of the story is you have to help this animal. Okay? This problem or task could be absolutely anything, but make sure that it is included in your scenario. Okay? So that is the middle of your story, is your character in their setting, going through their scenario, and trying to figure out a problem. Finally, the ending of the story. This is where everything gets tied up neatly so it all makes sense. This is where the problem or the task in the story gets solved. So maybe your character found their way home, or they solved the mystery that came along with the camera or the message in a bottle, or maybe they helped the talking animal with whatever their mission was. Okay, so this is where you tie up all of the loose ends. Now that you've written that and you've ended your story, you can write how your character is feeling. Do they feel different to what they did in the beginning? If they were shy, are they now more outgoing? If they were scared, are they now more brave? Has your character learned any lessons? Are they now more friendly? Are they now more happy? Okay, so this is where you write if your character has learned any morals or if they've changed as a person. Okay, and that should be it. That's the end. And that concludes my video on how to write your own story. I hope you've enjoyed watching, I hope you found it useful, and I hope you've enjoyed writing your own characters and stories. Once you're finished, you could share the story with your friends and family, and maybe you could try it all over again with new characters and new scenarios and new settings. Happy writing!